we are here today with William David Ellis, who is a fantasy author, if I'm not mistaken, and is going to tell us all sorts of wonderful things about books and possibly dialect writing, because language. Anyways, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment.
Well, like I said, my name's William David Ellis. That's my pen name. I go by David among my friends. And I'm writing a series called the Harry Ferguson Chronicles. And basically, it's set in East Texas. I wrote half of it in a cafe where I have my breakfast. And I listen to how the old men talk and how the waitresses fuss at the old guys. And it's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
So it comes out, and my father was an English teacher and speech. My wife is an English teacher. My daughter's an English teacher, and I punctuate when I darn well please. So it's, a lot of those guys, they're equipped to edit. But when it comes to the creativity part, they have to shut their left brain down that gets everything right. And I'm not really good at that. I mean, I'm a right brain pantser, and I love to write because I want to see what's going to happen.
Well, yeah. So tell us about your books.
Well, I'm trying to think how I got started. I've always written. I wrote in college. Actually, I started in third grade.
Oh, wow.
I wrote an entire novel. It was 3 pages. And those, you probably don't remember this, but they had not college rule, but the big Indian chief tablets. They were made out of a paper that was really hard and still had some wood fiber in it. And you had these pencils that you'd have to put on your shoulder and write with. And third graders, they can't grip. So you're not doing something really neat. You're just like, whirr. And I'd seen a movie. And I thought, oh man, that's amazing. It's called Robinson Crusoe on Mars. It was an old classic. The guy that used to do Batman, I can't remember his name, long ago when they were climbing up the side of walls and they had boom and bang and all that. He was in it. So I wrote a book called Robinson Crusoe on Venus. And it was exactly, it's what I just seen, but for a third grader.
Well, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. So, my mother read to us a lot. I mean, she read Edgar Rice Burroughs when I was in first grade. And if you've ever read that, the vocabulary is so advanced.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
It's like, gosh, and she was reading that when we were in first grade. So, I love to read. I'd rather just grab a book and read, curl up on a cold day and read.
Yeah.
So quite naturally, it became a part of me instinctively. And I think that needs to be a part of who a writer is if they're not a reader, then they don't have that intuitive sense of this is good, this is not. And I think it's hard for a person who's left-brained. They can write nonfiction all day long, but when it comes to fiction, it's just kind of got to be a part of who you've always been.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Sounds like huge amounts of fun. The 3-page novel, I've done that. It was fun.
Really?
Yeah. I was, I don't know, 6 or 7, and probably wrote very large handwriting naturally.
Oh, yeah.
And just wrote 3 pages, and my teacher's like, oh, that's wonderful, and keep doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sure. So I can see your covers on the bookshelf behind you. So.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
How very exciting. Tell us, what are the books about? What is everything? All of the things I want to know.
Can you see this?
Oh, I can see the top of it if you zoom. Oh.
How's that?
That's perfect. Wow. Oh, I like that cover.
This is the third cover. Now covers, oh my gosh. And back of the book, blurbs.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
There's that one, yeah. If you don't know what you're doing and you think this scene, because here's another cover. This is the original cover of the same book. Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's
this
quite
is
the
a
transformation.
scene from the book. And everybody thought, oh, that's so childish because they're eating Cheetos and the dragon's drinking a Coca-Cola. Well, the artist got me. That's me. And that's my daughter.
Uh-huh.
But everybody else seemed to like a different kind of cover. And I've discovered there's an expert for everything, and they all have 4 opinions. So you get 4 experts in the room, you got 16 opinions, and you still don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I can tell you how not to write a book. I can tell you how not to do a cover. I can tell you how not to do a back of the book blurb, you know. And I'm learning. That's what I'm doing. So thank you for calling attention to that.
I love seeing all of the books behind you. It's fascinating. And especially the transformation from cover to cover. I haven't redone some of my covers from way back when, but yes, I can understand that they would need it.
Yeah. And who says that? I mean, I actually did a survey in a coffee shop where I was writing, and I would show the picture of this cover and that cover, and it wasn't that extensive of a survey. There's only 7 people, but 5 of them liked the other cover, so I went with it.
Okay, then.
And then I changed it.
That seems pretty definitive.
Yeah. You're gracious. So, but anyway, what were we talking about?
Book covers, how not to write a book, and causing trouble.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, are your books part of a series?
Yes, ma'am. It's called the Harry Ferguson Chronicles.
Harry Ferguson Chronicles. Okay.
It's on Amazon.
Our main character is Harry Ferguson.
Yeah, it starts out being Hank Ferguson.
Oh.
Because do you remember The Princess Bride?
Yes.
And I think it's Peter Falk is reading to his grandson. Well, in the first book, that's the one with the sword.
Right.
His daughter, the librarian, coerces him into story time during the summer. Because she wants to get the kids away from monitors and electronic games and that kind of thing. And so the old man, he's an old man at this time, he sits down and begins to tell a story. And he captivates his young audience like they're first graders and kindergartners.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts. But what people don't know is that Hank, at the time it's called, is cast out of time. He was born in the 12th century, and he was born a medieval peasant boy. And in that process, he went to save a princess who had been kidnapped by a dragon. And he's he discovers who. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but there are time streams that hide away in dark caverns and are guarded by dragons. And
oh, that's lovely.
Oh, it's wonderful. And it wrote itself. But anyway, Hank, now the old man, he was wounded battling the dragon, and the princess who he saved, her name is Sarah. She pulls him into the stream, and she doesn't know it's a time stream either. And all of a sudden, he's gone. Oh, no. And then she dives down to find him, and she's gone too. And they both wind up in East Texas, where I live. Except that he's there 50 years before she is. And he ages. And he becomes an old man. And now he's got an adopted daughter named Lizzie, which I named after our dog. And my daughter, and she didn't appreciate it at all. And but it looks just like her, acts like her, talks like her, hands on the hip like her. And you know that. You see, every woman born of Eve knows the hands on their hip. I'm like 2 years old. They crawl out and go, Daddy. And we'll, my goodness.
It's so true.
So, yeah, I know it. And your eyebrows. When you can do that arch of the eyebrow thing, every man cringes. You know it. But anyway, that's embodied in the story. So Hank is telling a story, and there's this little girl who's 6 years old who begins to remember the story.
Oh.
Yeah. And then she starts to add to it things that he hasn't told yet. All of a sudden, she doesn't remember just yet, but she's starting to have dreams. And she's beginning to remember, but she is stuck in a 6-year-old little body, and he's 75.
Oh, my.
Love of his life. And never the two shall meet. I mean, it's not going to happen because it'd be wrong.
Well, yeah.
And this story's about honor and covenants and unrequited love. And what happens is Um, well, I guess I'll just spoil it. Anyway, here we go. So all these little kids they're a mess. They're asking questions, they're doing silly things, and they're caught up in the story. And what they don't know is that the dragon has also come down the time stream. He didn't kill it.
Oh dear.
And it takes on the shape of a clergy in the town, and a dark clergy. And they're into child sacrifice because they want to open a portal. And that's what the ancient Carthaginians used to do. And that's my other book, Dragons and Romans, child sacrifice thing. So there's that element in it. It's kind of horror, but I don't go into graphic detail about that. But anyway, so the dragon comes out of the portal. He's embodied now in the Reverend, and they are. He can change. He can shift into dragon nature. And so Hank, the old man, realizes the dragon's come for him, and there's a fight. And one of the last scenes, is that the dragon has kidnapped Sarah's grandparents, the people who adopted her. So when she came through, they found her in a house fire. She was 2 years old, and she had survived. Of course she does. She's part dragon. And they didn't know that. And so the grandma and grandpa, love her. They cherish her. They spoil her rotten. And so the evil dragon kidnaps him and holds him hostage and says, if he doesn't get Sarah, if Hank doesn't hand Sarah over to him, he's going to kill him. He's got bombs strapped to their chest. And it's like, oh, man. So Hank is talking to Sarah. They're in the library. And she's going back and forth between like multiple personality. The 18-year-old princess manifests, and then the 6-year-old does, and gradually their personalities merge. MPDs is what it's called, multiple personality disorder.
Yeah.
I'm also a counselor, so I can draw on some of this knowledge.
Oh, how interesting.
And so anyway, Hank is out there. He's got an armor. It's an ancient armor. It's technologically advanced ancient armor.
Oh.
So he can put it on and nobody knows he's wearing it. And it just looks like an old man swinging a sword. And I haven't even told you about the sword yet. But anyway, I'm going to hold some things back. So he's fighting the dragon. And finally the dragon, the dragon regenerates. So he can't kill it, And finally the dragon says, if you lay down your life, if you'll take off your armor and let me kill you, then I'll make it quick. And, but otherwise I'm going to drag this out. And he said, I'll also kill all these children.
Oh.
They're at hostage as well. And so he starts to do that. And all of a sudden you hear this rumbling, boom, boom, boom. And there's another dragon that's manifested. Sarah has shifted. She didn't know how to do that.
Woo-hoo.
But in the tension of the moment, she does. And she hammers that evil dragon. But she is about half his size. She's only been a dragon 5 minutes. Whoa. She doesn't know a lot about battle.
No.
And the dragon forces her down, and she will not submit to him. And in the meantime, her grandma and grandpa have been shot. They're bloodied. They're burnt. And the grandmother's dead, but the grandfather sees that his granddaughter is about to be slain, and he's still got that bomb trapped to his chest. He wraps his arms around the evil dragon's neck and poof, kills himself and blows the dragon away. So he rises up to save his granddaughter. So there's the father thing going there. There is self-sacrifice. There's honor. There's integrity. And Tank has been knocked out. He's out of the game for a little bit.
Right.
And Sarah doesn't know how to shift back. She's stuck.
Oh. And
so I'll leave it right there.
Oh no, that's like
some people have read those books.
That's great.
Hate them because I'll leave it, for the next one.
I love it.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you so much. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, no, that is really a great story and very fascinating. And I'm excited to read the book. Where did this come from? The
original story, The Princess Who Forgot She's Beautiful, began about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It began as a short story because I had a dear and precious friend, a young woman, like a daughter to me, who had tried to escape a darkness that she was in. We're talking about very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Not just depression, behavioral, just it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And she had forgotten that she was loved, that she was cherished, that she was special. And when we forget who we are, we have a tendency to become what the world tells us we should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the seed of the story. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And it's going to be about 5 novels. They just finished book 3.
Ooh.
Because, well, I can't go.
Yeah, no, don't. No more spoilers.
Yeah. The 4th book is called Rivals because there's Sarah, when she changes back, she's back to 18. Mm-hmm. And through a process, Hank becomes Harry again, the young man. Oh. He still has all the wisdom, but he's been transfigured. He's been, what do you call it? I don't know. But anyway, he's back to being a young man. So he's got his youth back, and they can be together, except something happens that they can't. And so the 4th book is called Rivals. So another woman comes along, and she's a witch, except not your normal witch. Mm-hmm. The difference between a witch and a prophet is whom they serve.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, this is Christian fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And their bloodlines. She is a descendant of the Nephilim. And I don't know if you're aware of what.
I'm familiar with the concept.
Okay. And it's in the book of Genesis, around the 12th chapter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The heroes of old is a phrase associated with that term. They were the offspring of women and angels. Anyway, her name is Belle Rodham. That's the name, Belle, of the witch. And she's never met a man she couldn't seduce or kill.
Oh, dear.
Until she meets Harry.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And he chases her demons away. And she hates him, but she's fascinated with him.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor Harry. This poor guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things are not going well for him.
Never. But he always overcomes. And then there are other characters. There's a dog that is half sentient, very intelligent creature. I named him after our German Shepherd. Yeah. His name is Raleigh. Uh-huh. And then there's a Sasquatch that has a PhD in organic chemistry that is also he shifts. And that's how they hide out among us. They're shifters. So you got this Bigfoot from East Texas who knows organic chemistry, talks with a drawl. Uh-huh. And especially when he dresses as Sherlock Holmes. Now that's in the 3rd. Oh, this thing is amazing. You really need to get the book and tell your friends.
Absolutely. I love it. Sorry, I'm just trying to picture an East Texan Sherlock Holmes Sasquatch type.
Well, he's not manifesting in his Bigfoot form when he's doing the Sherlock Holmes thing, but they're in London when that happens, and Harry is making fun of him. Says, "Man, you stick out like a sore thumb." He's like 6'6" in his normal human form, and he says, "Well, look at you, buddy. You got boots, suspenders, and a cowboy hat. Look who's sticking out." And I went, ah. So they're great friends.
That's great friend.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I write because I want to find out how it comes out. And it's good when other people like it too.
Yeah. Okay, so 5 books with this series. And then you said you have another book, the Dragons and Romans behind you there. Yeah. This is a separate thing.
Oh, man. Can you see it?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Very cool. Very almost Celtic.
Okay. I was doing some research because here in Texas, there's a river, Cleburne, Texas, I think it is, that has footprints of people inside of dragon tracks or dinosaur tracks. Oh. And people go, what the heck? How can that be? So I was doing some research to see if it's possible. Is there any historical reference to dragons? I mean, China had some dragons that they actually hitched up to wagons. And Livy, a Roman historian, had one single little paragraph and he said a Roman legion was attacking Carthage during the Punic Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it was attacked by a dragon, and it defeated the dragon with catapults and things like that. And that is all it says. Nothing else.
It?
That's it.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. So yours truly gets curious. So I do research on Carthage.
Mm-hmm.
Carthage were the ancient Canaanites. Hannibal was a Carthaginian.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their biggest deals was sacrifice of children. Yeah. Archaeologists have found hundreds of urns of baby bones. And also in the book of 2 Chronicles, I think it is, in the Old Testament, mm-hmm. there is a reference to the Israelites were attacking a city, and the king of the city was a Canaanite, and he sacrificed his oldest son on the wall. And the next little phrase is amazing. It says, and the fury against Israel was so great, they withdrew.
Yeah.
So the energy released through a human sacrifice is significant and it's real. Mm-hmm. Now combine those elements. Where did the dragon come from? It was released by the sacrifice.
Oh, do you know that actually makes perfect sense?
Sure does. A lot of things that are in the occult resonate mm-hmm. because instinctively we're familiar mm-hmm. with the dark. And so anyway, this book is about how a Roman legion that was attacked by the dragon mm-hmm. Fights it, because the dragon becomes sentient the more it's exposed to the evil Carthaginian high priest, and it begins to rebel. Uh-huh. And it's developing a self-awareness, and it's not a mystical creature. It's actually called out of time,
right?
And it's becoming aware, and so the Romans are fighting it. And I go into descriptions about catapults, mm-hmm. and one of the qualifications of the book is I can use any technology. It's not steampunk, but if the knowledge was available at the time,
right,
I can use it. And so the Romans are looking for something to keep the fire off of them. And I didn't realize it, but they had asbestos tablecloths that they would throw into the fire, and it would clean them in Roman restaurants and inns. And it sounds horrible today, but for the season.
Yeah, wow. That's really fascinating technology. Also a little bit terrifying given a modern understanding of the substance, but still very That's cool. Great.
Yeah. And then there's a young woman who was been captured as a slave by the Carthaginians. Mm-hmm. And she has visions. She's a prophetess.
Oh.
And so God speaks through her.
Mm-hmm.
To her. And the Roman general doesn't believe in this until he starts to have dreams. And he's visited in his dreams, and he finds a mentor.
Uh-huh.
And it's Elijah, the prophet.
Oh, and, very cool.
Elijah gives him insight. And so, because he said you've got to deal with this dragon on 3 levels. You've got to deal with it in the spirit mm-hmm. and in the flesh. Mm-hmm. And if you avoid one, it'll destroy you in the other. And so all these things are tied together. And that's dragons and Romans. And there's the love story between the Roman general mm-hmm. and the Jewish slave girl. Uh-huh. And it's funny. It's very clean, but there's a romance in it because, she's struggling with, I'm a slave girl.
Wow.
She doesn't realize the general's already set her free because she's helped him to understand what's going on in his own heart.
Oh,
a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really fascinating. And I desperately want to go now do more research on the Roman period. I haven't done it in a while. And gosh. So how much research went into all of this? Both series, I guess, would be.
Well, I live the Harry Ferguson Chronicles, so that didn't require a lot of research. I just go to the cafe and listen.
Yep. That does help.
There's a group of old men there who've invited me many times to get with them. And sometimes I do, but most of the time I said, listen, mm-hmm. if I join you at your table, I'll have to talk to you. If I sit over here, I can just laugh at you and listen and take notes. And they get it because they showed up in the book. I don't know how much research, hours, hundreds of hours, maybe, not sure, in Dragons and Romans. But it was fun.
Yeah.
Sure is. Well,
how long did it take you to find that one line in Roman history about the dragon? Or I guess paragraph, you said.
Well, Actually, it's pretty common out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just how did I find it? I had a vague memory that I'd read that somewhere, and I don't know how that came about. And so I went to find it, see if I imagined that, and I had not imagined it. It was accurate. And then, but it's I mean, and it's been quoted a couple of different times, and so I've tried to find the primary source. But even the primary source is 200 years after the actual battles of Carthage.
Right, right.
And they said that I think there's a little bit another sentence to that paragraph. It says they skint the animal. It was 120 feet long. It was for 100 years. It was in the Roman Senate. But that's it. Nobody else.
Well, I know there's a linguistic phenomenon where every language, even if they're not related, has a phrase for something like how to slay a dragon. So,
Yes.
okay, well, where did that come from? I haven't read the book in a while, so I don't remember all of the details. But it's an interesting phenomenon, and I think there's probably more to it than most people think.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah, I think a lot of them survived. And there's just too many. I mean, how did we know about them? You know, I don't know. And but it is significant. It's cool. And, well, I try to keep my fantasy within some bounds, and because I am a Christian, but a lot of people don't understand how much is in the Bible.
Oh, there's a lot.
You know that there's shapeshifters in the Bible. All right, and can you tell me where they're at?
Oh gosh, it's been a while. Old Testament.
Yeah.
I want to say around Jacob, but
well, what did
I've
Moses
studied
have
New
in
Testament
his hand?
most recently than an Old Testament. It's been a while.
What did Moses have in his hand most of the time?
Well, his staff, which then God shifted into the stick. However, he was fighting the Egyptian prophets.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got a shifter right there.
Yep.
Sure do. And you know that will hair lift a fundamentalist, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care. It's the truth. And then you have Elijah doing some crazy things, and so you have access to all of that. You know, there are even witches in the Old Testament. Like when Samuel, Saul was about to go into battle and he's scared, and so he goes to this medium and he says, "Call up the ghost of Samuel." Well, there you have a ghost. There you have a witch. So there's so much more, and even zombies.
Yeah.
You know where they are? Where?
It's been a while. I mean, if we're going by traditional definition of zombie being raised from the dead, then obviously Leviticus.
Really? Where?
Not Leviticus. What's his face? Oh.
I don't know.
Words are escaping me. Oh.
You have to stretch it a little bit. You have to stretch it. You have to really stretch it to find it. And that's okay. We're fiction writers.
Yeah.
But at the resurrection of Jesus, at his crucifixion, there was an earthquake. And I can't remember if it's in Matthew or not, but it said the righteous dead rose and visited many in the city. I mean, that's not really a zombie, but you know what? I'm calling it.
I mean, that could be ghost or it could be zombie, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, but since I'm writing a book, I'm going to call it what I want.
Exactly. Sounds like fun. So what's next for you, since you're sounding like you're getting awful close to finishing your Harry Ferguson Chronicles?
Yeah.
Do you have plans for afterwards?
Well, I've got to learn to promote and market.
Yeah, well.
But the writing, there's a series I want to write, again, set in East Texas, called The Haunted Prophets.
Oh.
And this one, it's more contemporary. Well, I don't know. Harry Ferguson's pretty contemporary. But in this one, there's a paranormal detective agency called Buns and Knuckles. Buns? All right. There's a little lady in one of my churches that is about 5 feet tall. And she has a bun on her head. Okay. We're talking about fist-sized bun. Her name is Tony Steele. And then I have a retired Army Ranger colonel and Will Conley. Now, Will is like, big,
big burly guy, yeah.
And they love each other to death, okay? And she's 75, he's 50, and they come to a Bible study with me, and oh, my goodness, she shakes her finger, and she's the only one to get away with it. She puts her finger in his face and chooses behind out. He laughs at her, but he does what she's told. And so anyway, I got to thinking, what a team They
Mm-hmm.
are. So I took a picture of them. You got this little bitty lady, this big guy. She's got a bone on her head. And then I have lunch with Will. I said, Will, I need names. He said, oh, it's David. That's simple. I'll be, we already got the Knuckles thing down. We got the Buns thing down, but I need first names. I
Uh-huh.
said, well, I'll be Bear Knuckles, Bear, Knuckles. And I said, well, what are we going to call her? And he said, well, her last name is Steele.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to call her Buns of Steel. I said, no, we can't do that. And she threw a fit. And so she made him swear that he would not put an S on that name. It'd be Bun, Steel Bun or something. And he said, and he winked at me and he said, okay, we swear. And then he took me aside and said, David, we're going to use a Z. Buns of Steel.
Oh, that's so. Oh
So
no.
that's next. That's next.
Oh, that's gonna be absolutely wonderful.
I hope so.
That's
Well,
fantastic.
2 years away because I've still got a book and a half to write,
Well, sure.
and I've got some promotions going on.
Uh-huh.
Yesterday, Dragons and Romans was #9 in Christian
Wow.
fantasy, but that's not really anything. It only sold 10 books to get to #9. So what do? I made 50 cents, but hey,
50
yeah,
cents is better than nothing.
yes it is. Yes it is.
Yeah, marketing and promotions is whole different kettle of fish.
Yes it is. Yes it is. But we're learning.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a whole process.
Absolutely.
And honestly, your books sound really interesting. So I think if you can get enough people out there, you'll have the momentum to definitely keep
I
it
hope so. I do. I do.
Oh, what fun. What
'Cause
fun.
the greatest compliment anybody can receive, I think, is when somebody you don't know, doesn't know you, reads your book, loves it, and writes a great review, and you're going, wow, that says, that's real. It's not like your mother wrote it.
No, it's fun. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to read your book. It sounds great. Actually, I might read all of them because it sounds fascinating and great. And I love that whole genre
Awesome.
so very much. Well, is there anything else you would like to add that is writing related or absolutely not writing related?
No, I hope that anyone listening to this has been entertained and also encouraged. I think it was Jim Butcher, author of the Harry Dresden Files, said that 90% of writers self-terminate.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep on keeping on,
Yes,
in
absolutely.
due season we shall reap if we faint not. And that faint not part's hard.
A little bit, yes.
Yes.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful talking with you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for doing this. It was
Pleasure.
great.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Yeah, you too.